Oh my gosh. We've been having just too much fun. All right. I'm Karen Harrison. My website is karenharrison.net. Welcome to October Reiki Call podcast, where, take it away, Munikai.
You will find accurate, practical, and useful knowledge on the uses of Reiki. And now, your host, the one and only Karen Harrison.
Well, thank you, Munikai. That was wonderful. All right, we're going to start off with a little grounding centering before we launch into introductions, where, yes, we're having way too much fun with that. All right, let's just put our hands together in Gasho and activate your Reiki energy. Let's start with the Reiki ideals just for today. We let go of anger. We let go of worry. We do our work honestly. We're grateful. And we're kind to others, beginning with ourselves. Now place your hands over your heart. And we call on all the spiritual beings that we work with, God, Jesus, the angels, the archangels, the divine, by whatever name you call it. And we affirm that we are open and receptive to higher wisdom, the love of Reiki flowing through us, Reiki energy grounding us and centering us. Take a deep breath. And exhale. And take another deep breath and intend to breathe in Reiki. And exhale, intend to let go of whatever you need to release. Take another deep breath, inhale Reiki. Exhale and release. Another deep breath, inhale Reiki. And exhale and release. And now we open our eyes and we hold up our hands and intend to connect our hands around the circle, sending Reiki to each one who is watching this recording, each person who is here today. We send you Reiki, we beam Reiki for whatever you need, for your highest good, for your health and wellness, for the world and world peace, for remembrance of who we are, spiritual beings having a human experience, and remembering the purpose of the distance symbol. We are all one. We are all connected. And so it is. Blessed be. Amen. Okay, wow. You all are powerful. All right, now I want to introduce my guest, Munikai Mohammed. He is a Usui Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki Master Teacher and co-founder of Healing Land Reiki with Lena Takahashi in Japan. He's currently a student in the ICRT Licensed Reiki Master Teacher Program, where he holds the distinction of being the first Black African American to enter the program. And beside his Reiki work, he is a certified spiritual life coach, specializing in cultural connections. He's lived and worked in Japan since 1998, teaching English and immersing himself in the culture. And in addition to speaking Japanese, he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish language from the University of Arizona. He also loves movement and dance, and he was a professional Hawaiian hula dancer for 11 years and also enjoys Latin dance. You can connect with Munikai and Healing Land Reiki through their website at healinglandreiki.com or Facebook and Instagram at Healing Land Reiki. Well, welcome, Munikai. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you have a great topic here.
Yeah, so last month we kicked off talking about Reiki and myths, and we had so many to discuss that we did not get through them all. And then I thought, well, there's some more that I didn't think to cover. And so now I've got a list of 29. And of course, it is not complete. But I guess, hey, first we'll see if you all have any Reiki myths you want to discuss. And then we'll launch into the ones that Munikai and I picked out to talk about. So, Julie, did you have one you wanted to ask about? Or was that an accident that you put your hand up?
Well, it was an accident, but I just had something happen on a Facebook post, and I was responding to s- have you heard of the woman that has the book Let Them? She had a
Yes.
video, and I mentioned the word Reiki, and I got a response that Reiki's from the devil.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
good.
so
Great. We want to
yeah,
discuss that. Reiki's from the devil.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't know how to put my hand down, but oh, there, I see now.
okay. Well, that's actually one of the ones that we wanted to talk about. Number nine, Reiki is tied to the
Okay.
occult or magic
Oh,
or from the devil. Um, okay. Well, Munikai, what do you have to say about that?
I would love to have an opportunity to speak with the people who say that because, first, Reiki practitioners, people, we first of all, there's a lot of resources out there for us to understand why they're saying that. But then there's the response to that. And for that, I go to Dr. Anthony Burton. I don't know if you've heard of him. He is an ordained Christian, he is Dr. Anthony Burton, PhD, ordained Christian minister and Reiki master. And so I meant to send you, Karen, a list of links that I'm going to, and this is from him. And the question is, how do you know that such healing comes from God and not from the devil? And Dr. Burton says, while Satan, the bad guy, is known as having various powers, there's nowhere that the bad guy is known to do anything of good. No healing, only tempting you and stressing you out. And then he gives various Christian passages that say that, hey, you can't, if it can't be from the bad guy yet be doing good with no side effects. If it was from the so-called devil, then there should be a negative consequence to doing it in the first place. I haven't had any negative consequences when I've done Reiki for myself or others. So where's the negative consequence that proves that it's from the devil? Number one. Then there's even the various Christian passages that say that James 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and from the Father of lights. If this modality is from the negative side, how has it been able to do so much good work without any negative consequences? And so the onus is on the person who says it's from the devil. Please present your evidence that it is, because the overwhelming evidence that is present says it's not, including various passages from the very book that most people, the Bible, that many people tend to believe. That's the first way that we would answer that, and we have a lot more we could say on that, but that's the short answer for that. Where's the proof? What's the evidence? Because you can just say anything. Anyone can say anything, and most people do. But it's another thing to back that statement up.
mm-hmm.
Reiki has at least we know over 100 years of documented evidence in the just from the lineage from Japan, so of not causing any side effects and no negative consequences. So where's the evidence that it's from the devil besides that person's personal belief? That's the first way you should handle that.
Thank you. And I would like to share a wonderful resource that is very accessible. So I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to go to Reiki.org, which is the homepage of the International Center for Reiki Training. Then this also ties into the question, should Christians practice Reiki? Well, that's up to them. But if you go to the very bottom left of the homepage, you'll see this little hot link, Reiki for Christians. And then you'll go here.
Oh,
a different story. There's an article on should Christians practice Reiki.
Oh, fuck. Mushroom.
Okay, who is that? Mute.
Yes.
All right, please, if you're not actively answering a question or asking a question, please keep yourself muted.
And
all right, so back to this. There's a lot of articles on here. There's frequently asked questions. This is probably one of the most valuable things. So how do we know that healing is appropriate for Christians to do? In 1 Corinthians 14:1, Paul tells us to eagerly desire spiritual gifts. In 1 Corinthians 12:28, Paul says that healing is one of the gifts. Also, Jesus is quoted in John 14:12 as saying, I tell you the truth, anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. He will do even greater than these because I go to the Father. We know that Jesus practiced laying on hands type healing. Therefore, it's scriptural for Christians to practice healing by laying on hands. And then it goes into more questions, like what's the best way for a Christian to practice Reiki, about the attunement. How do we know Reiki comes from God? I've heard people say Reiki comes from Satan, which is just what Munakai was saying. In Luke 6:44, Jesus says each tree is recognized by its own fruit, which is to say that if something is beneficial and helps people and those results are long lasting, such as the healing people receive from Reiki, then it must be good and come from God. And is Reiki a religion? Reiki is not a religion. It's a simple healing technique. It does not require one give up one's religion or change one's religious beliefs in any way to practice it. I've been teaching since 2000. I've taught people who are Christians, Catholics, agnostics, Wiccans, Jewish, Muslim, all sorts of things. And then more questions, is Reiki a cult, and about symbols and guides, and is Reiki wizardry or black magic? Wizardry and black magic is used with the idea of gaining power over others or gaining some personal benefit regardless of God's will. It does not call on God, but on lower powers or lower beings to help fulfill one's desire. Reiki does not operate in this way. It cannot be used to fulfill one's personal desires unless they're part of God's plan. It can only be used to heal and to help people and is always guided by God. So anyway, these are some great resources. And yeah, Munakai, what else did you want to share?
I want to add on to that part about where Jesus says, "Greater works than I shall you do." That's the other part that a lot of people they seem to forget that part. If here's Jesus, and here's where we, the common man, are. We're all impressed by all these great things he does. He's like, man, you are going to do greater stuff than me. Well, if we're not even doing the same level of him, then we're not even at the same level. We're let alone doing greater. But then there's another thing that a lot of people forget is that the scriptures also say Um, God says that I will work a work you will not believe, even though it gets told to you. Just because that person doesn't believe that Reiki is a force for good doesn't mean it's not. And just because a person says it's from the devil doesn't mean it is. It could be the workings of the God doing good that you don't believe as is written and predicted. So there's a lot of different ways of speaking to these individuals who say that because they never present proof. They just throw that out there without ever backing it up.
Mhm. One of the beautiful things I see about Reiki is it helps to unite people across religions, cultures, and countries. You know, the International Center for Reiki Training now has licensed teachers not only in Japan, but Korea and China, Hong Kong, Brazil, Australia, the UK, Canada, and I'm sure I've missed some.
Iran.
Iran. I mean, so yes, Iran. It's all over. And one of my favorite stories was a woman who talked to me before class, and she wanted to make sure that there weren't any, like witches, that I wasn't practicing witchcraft. And, I told her I used prayers, um, and I considered myself to be a Christian. Well, in class, she ended up partnering with a woman who brought in goddess statues and said she was Wiccan. But this lady didn't know that Wicca is another word for witch. And so here's this Baptist person partnering for her treatments with a, a Wiccan witch. I thought, well, this is beautiful. Now, I didn't bother to tell her that she chose the witch out of the class. I thought, this is really cool, because we have to accept diversity if we are to heal our divisiveness, not only in this country, but in all around the world. And so that means healing and understanding and honoring our differences and our uniqueness. And rather than, putting them down or saying that they're bad. So, hey, well, we just addressed several in there. And, I guess, Munikai, we could also put out there, like, same question. I don't know if you get this. Should Muslims practice Reiki?
Oh, I get it a lot. And the stance I take on this issue is I'm very deliberate with being, yes, I'm a Reiki practitioner, but I'm intentionally loud to be, I'm a Muslim Reiki practitioner. Also, I'm a Reiki practitioner who practices Islam because there are many people who are saying that, oh no, Muslims cannot practice Reiki. And I'm like, why not? Because according to what our teachings, Almighty God, Allah, gave Adam in the beginning power over everything. Well, power, what did he do? Did he just say, okay, there you go, you got the power. Okay, good luck, see you later. No, power. So, and he taught him everything. Well, if this Reiki is a frequency of energy that is in the universe, like we have radio waves, we have television signals, we have Wi-Fi. If these energies exist and we can use them, why is it so far-fetched that there's another frequency out there that actually allows us to utilize the another frequency of energy that was placed in this same universe by this same God that he gave us power to use in the first place? And then just the principle that Mikao Usui was searching for, Anshin Ritsume, the state of perfect peace at all times, regardless of what the activity is around you. Well, that's a universal spiritual practice, and in Islam we say after you've done all you can, put your trust in Allah, and Allah loves those who trust in Him. Well, that's in Japanese is Anshin Ritsume. In Islam, that's how we say it. Other faith traditions say express that same idea differently. So I would never say Mikao Usui was searching for Islam. That would be not the way to say it. But the principle is universal and applies everywhere. So there is a way to understand Reiki from an Islamic perspective. It's just that many people have been told not to do it and they've been too afraid to investigate it. So I study and I have these discussions with many Muslims who are curious about Reiki but are afraid because someone told them that it's incorrect. I welcome those discussions, and I'm very happy to say that many Muslims are now starting to practice Reiki, and they're having the same experience I have. It helps us become a better person. It brings us closer to our faith tradition, no matter what it is. And it just makes you overall a better human being in that means to you.
Mhm.
So,
I think that is a good point. I like to think of Reiki as embodied spirituality because it gives me a way to feel God, or however you want to call the divine. When I activate the healing energy for myself and others, I feel the power and presence of God moving through me. Now, do I have the power of Jesus? No, not by a long shot, but I have a little bit of healing power, and the research shows that Reiki is good for stress reduction, depression, anxiety, pain relief, and quicker recovery after surgery. So those are the main results that Reiki is showing from a scientific standpoint. And I know, Monica and I could tell many stories of how Reiki has helped us, but that's not the point of our podcast tonight. So, all right. Well, Julie, does all of that discussion help you?
It does. I guess I just, yeah, I didn't get in. I don't know this person, and it was on social media, so I didn't think to ask anything. But sometimes if you're not face to face with someone, it's easy to just blast another person and have an honest discussion.
Well,
And I felt kind of blasted, but yeah, that's very helpful.
yeah, providing resources and let the person
Yeah,
come to their own conclusion.
right.
I mean, is Reiki for everybody? No, it's not. It's for those that feel guided to use it and practice it and learn it. And
Hmm.
those that aren't, they have their own path.
Yeah.
We are not here to evangelize or try and push anybody to do Reiki or receive Reiki for that matter. I offered Reiki to one of my neighbors who's going through some surgery, and the neighbor declined, but said they would be happy to accept prayers. And that's fine with me. I will gladly spend an hour in prayer for that person.
The response the person gave was me saying that Reiki had really helped in my own personal healing, emotional healing journey that I've done in the last year. And so that was their response. But no, I appreciate the discussion. It's very helpful.
Good, good. Okay, well, did anyone else online have something that they wanted to discuss before we launch into our other items? Okay, Michelle.
Well, I think this is actually on the list. Was one, in fact, that came up when you had approached me about work study, and I had just got out of the hospital, and I saw that this was on the list, I believe, was about giving Reiki when you're not well, when you're not feeling well. So I was really curious about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, Munikai, what do you have to say about that?
Since Reiki does, first of all, this frequency of energy, it does no harm. And the beautiful thing about it is the when you give Reiki, when you're letting Reiki flow through you to anyone or anything, plants, cats, or just sending out as a free gift for positive well-being around you, that energy is flowing through you and it's actually helping to heal and it's helping to relax you on the inside. The stress reduction alone that a person's receiving will allow your own body to gain access to resources to help it recover. So if I just recovered from bronchitis last week. If you may, I might have an occasional cough. I still am. I'm 98% there, but I still have an occasional cough. I asked my Reiki family, please send me the energy so that the stress and tension that I was feeling, I already had to recover from bronchitis, but could you please help me to relax and so that I can breathe easier, so I can make use of resources that I would not have access to if I was stressed. And when you are stressed and tense, then you're taking away energy that your body could be using to heal itself. So just activating Reiki and letting it flow into yourself or letting it flow out actually is a self cleansing, self regenerating process. You're helping yourself to heal even if you're still laying in the hospital bed by just sending it out as a free gift.
What about for the person that you're sending it to? Do you think it takes away from what you're sending to that person if you're like very sick when you're sending
The Reiki energy does not work that way.
it?
That's not the way Reiki
Yeah,
works. It's not like, okay, there's this
there's only so much.
yeah, it's not like there's only so much here, and because you're sick, okay, Reiki is going to give them this amount, and the rest is
Mhm.
got this little small part over here. You're going to get that. That's not the way Reiki
Right.
works. Reiki, 100% of the energy that you're intending to send to the person they receive, but the Reiki energy always treats the sender as needing Reiki also. So it's a win-win. The person who you're sending it to is benefiting, the person who's the sender is benefiting, and it doesn't take away from anything. It's there's I just had you cannot lose, and you can't, there's no way to do it wrong. The only way to do it wrong is to not do it or to be afraid that there's a possibility that I might be taking away. That's an unfounded fear that restricts. There's no such thing as my illness affecting the Reiki that I'm sending to someone else. I benefit, they benefit, and we all benefit.
So that I think that's very good. Now let me make a little caveat.
Oh, okay.
If
All right.
I'm going to do an in-person session and I have something contagious,
Oh,
then I am going to reschedule it, or
mhm,
I'm going to offer them a distance session.
mhm.
So that's a time when you shouldn't do an in-person session. But for example, I had some surgery in February and I wasn't feeling my best by any means, but I did sessions the next day and it helped the person and it helped me, as Munikai said, because the energy is flowing through me too. I felt better and I continue to work. Same with teaching. I've taught when I didn't feel well, when I was upset, stressed, grieving, you teach long enough and often enough, and you can't always do your sessions and teach when you're at your optimum. But Reiki takes care of it.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Lucy, you had a question?
Yes, I started Reiki back in 1998 when it was one and two separately, and it was with a different person before you. And back then, it was with Dr. Yusui, and it talked about all the steps, all the people, but it never mentioned Jesus or Mary. There was no mention of any of the other ascended masters at that time. And then as I moved on, I did two with you. And then I moved and I did another master class when I was in Colorado. And I still don't remember it being mentioned then. And then when I came back here, I noticed that it was being mentioned. So I wanted to know when it was started to use those other ascended masters and why was it?
Well, let me just jump in on that. And every teacher teaches their own flavor of Reiki. Reiki is not meant to be religious by any means. If you are working with someone who is, spiritual or Christian, they're probably going to bring in whoever it is that they work with. If you take Reiki from a Buddhist, then they may be bringing in more Buddhist things. If you're taking it from a Hindu, maybe they would bring in more Hindu elements. Reiki is spiritual and it doesn't rely on any one ascended master. With the International Center for Reiki Training, our goal is to have it be open to anyone of any religion. We acknowledge what we call the brothers and sisters of the light, which are all of the ascended masters, those that originated all the world's religions. And people are free to work with whoever they want or none of them, you know? So as far as when that was brought in, I don't know the answer, to that. Reiki is certainly an evolving system, and no two teachers' classes are exactly the same, even among our licensed teachers. We all teach the same outline, but we all have our own flavor of things that we add to it. So, Monica, anything that you want to add on that?
The beautiful thing, thank you, Karen. That was very beautiful and very well put. And the thing I would like to add onto that is think of Reiki as water. Water is universal. We all drink it. If I but water is also in everything. And water takes on the coloring of the vessels that it's poured into. So as you just said, I as a practicing Muslim, but if I choose to activate and practice my Reiki in an Islamic way, then I would use those terms. But I don't have to. If I can also simultaneously call on God, Jesus, and clear Christian terms. I can, but I don't have to. I can also do the same thing with other ways. Here's the thing, none of that is required. Once you have received the training, it's simply Reiki on and let it flow. So the that's the beauty of Reiki. It acknowledges and allows people to bring their expression of their culture to how they do Reiki with the understanding that how I bring what I bring of my culture to the Reiki practice is what I'm bringing to it, but it's not necessary to actually do Reiki. So I think it's beautiful that people are bringing their expressions, and it's just nice to know that it's not necessary, but it adds flavor to the Reiki soup. Hope that does that give some kind of understanding there, Lucy?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was just surprised because when I was initially trained, we never talked about anyone else. It was all based on Dr. Usui's teaching. So I was just
Oh,
surprised when I heard it, being, people bringing in Jesus and Mary as two of the ascended masters. So to me, they are, in my belief. So I was just surprised because I hadn't heard it before, early on when I took my initial training in 98.
Hmm. Well, Reiki has certainly evolved, and
mm-hmm.
the story of Dr. Usui has evolved too, as we've learned more. So that's a whole nother topic.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Anybody else have something that they want to ask about? All right. Well, how about distance Reiki isn't real? That's, yeah. Hmm.
I'm gonna have to send you this list of articles because like the science behind distance Reiki. Because a lot of these people, when they're saying distance Reiki isn't real, science says it is. What science? The science that says things like, okay, here, just give you an anecdote. You know the time when you're like, you're washing dishes or something, and that cousin or friend, just random name, cousin Tom. Haven't thought about him in ages. Okay. Next thing you get a text message or an email, and oh, cousin Tom, how are you? How did that happen? There's Dr. John Boulier, one of the pioneers of sound healing, speaks of something called harmonic resonance. And since every individual and everything has a vibration, the times when your personal vibration just so happens to match up with the vibration of another individual, that is when you're in harmonic resonance. In plain English, you happen to dial the other person's phone number. You may not have been intending to do so, but you suddenly are in vibrational linkage and that person pops into your mind. Science says there's this thing called quantum physics, another level of physics that says that there's actually the whole we are one and we're all in oneness. That's not just a woo-woo phrase. That is a scientific reality that is hard for a lot of people to recognize, but it's real. There is a way for these beings to actually dial another human being's frequency. With Reiki at level 2, you actually gain the skill and the access to the frequency to dial another person's energy with their permission, because Reiki works by free will. Pardon me. You know how you're dialing someone up and they just don't answer the phone? Same thing. We cannot force Reiki on into anyone. They have to choose to accept. But if you have that friend who maybe they've sprained an ankle in New York City and you're in Canton and you're where Karen is, or where I am in Japan, and they give permission, yes, please send me energy to help me relax so that I can recover faster. The more information you have about that individual, name, what do they look like, what's their condition, and you sit as a Reiki practitioner, you can intend for Reiki to go to that person. Reiki travels on this quantum physics energy field and does a checklist. Okay, name, check. Person looks like this, check. They have this condition, sprained ankle, check. And they have given permission to accept, check. Once the checklist is done, Reiki energy flows to them. It's called quantum physics. It's not the easiest thing to understand, but it is an actual science. And it's basically, and the easiest to understand it is you're basically dialing that person's energetic phone number and with their permission. And the distance symbol is the device, if you want to call it that, that allows us to do it. And I have here, yes, Karen, just give me one moment. Distance Healing by Daniel J. Bernard, MD, medical doctor. This article reviews 61 studies of distance healing where the healing was deliberately sent and received, and that there's another 120 randomized studies that are not listed here in this one article. So there's scientific double blind I don't know what's that phrase, that double blind scientific method that's the gold standard to see if it really works. We got this. It's been done. So people who say it's not real or there's no science behind it, they're really saying there's no science they are willing to accept because the science is here. This and there's it's overwhelming documented scientific evidence that distance healing works. Also, many cultures around the world talk about how there's a tribe down there in the Indian Ocean area that when the earthquake and tsunami happened, these people have no technology, but they all knew to leave their lowlands and go into the mountains. And when the tsunami came in, none of them lost their lives. These people don't have technology. They didn't feel the earthquake, but they knew leave now. And they did. None of them lost their lives. There's overwhelming scientific evidence for distance healing.
Well, thank you for that, Munikai. That was helpful and enlightening. One of the reasons I'm interested in that is I provide a lot of distance healing sessions and I provide a lot of in-person sessions. And some of my in-person people have a hard time understanding that distance Reiki works just as well as in person. And sometimes it actually works better in my mind. Because, for example, when I'm doing a distance session and I am using a doll, so to speak, like I've got my doll laying over there on the table, I can actually, yes, or a bear, it's much smaller than a person, and I can actually treat the whole person very easily, front and back and side, and that's very cute. And one of my clients I worked on last week was a 99-year-old woman, and I did a distance treatment with her last week. The week before, I did an in-person treatment with her in a walker, and it was much, much easier and much more comfortable for her to receive the treatment laying down in her bed. It was much easier for me to not have to move around a walker and then she was kind of dozing off, but had no head support. It really wasn't comfortable. She wasn't able to get up on the table. So I find that with distance Reiki sessions, I'm able to actually access some of my intuition a little more strongly because I'm not interacting, with the physical body. And often there's maybe less talking in a distance session. So I find they work great. And the biggest benefit for me at my age, which is 67, is it's so much easier on my body. I found that I can only do 3 or 4 in-person sessions a week now because there's only so long that I can hold my hand positions, above the eyes and under the head. And, and look what happens to my shoulders when I put my hands under the head. The shoulders go up and and if I lean across the body, shoulder and neck tension. So much easier. So distance healing is amazing. It works well, and it allows me to support my clients and students that live in other cities, have moved to other countries. I did a distance session last week for one of my students who moved to oh, what is it? Bolivia? It's a country in South America. I forgot which one. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Reiki, like prayer, works without being present. So that is probably the most common analogy that I use. You know, I ask people, do you need to be in person to pray for someone? Well, no, Reiki works the same way. No, it works across time and space. And another cool thing is you can send it backward in time, you can send it forward in time, you know, backward in time to heal old traumas, forward in time to try and manifest good results, you know, like sending it forward in time for a person who's going through a surgery so that the energy is all there and ready for that doctor and the nurses in the operating room.
Yep.
Okay, so that was a good one. Hey, let's see if we can get through a couple more.
Mhm.
Oh, Reiki is only a placebo. Well, I think Munikai has pulled out a lot of research, and I've mentioned research. So the research says otherwise. Now, is Reiki going to heal everything? Is it going to give you a total healing? No, we never promise a cure. And if anybody ever promises you a cure, beware. That, that's not something that we can do. We don't know what the Reiki energy is going to do. You know, it may just help the person to be more comfortable, or reduce their stress, or as Munikai said, to be able to relax more fully so that their body can heal. So Munikai, anything you want to add to that about Reiki's only placebo?
When the person says, quote, only a placebo, first, the odd thing is many people are using that placebo incorrectly in the first place. They're trying that's their way of politely saying Reiki's not real. That's what they're really saying, but they're trying to take it above a notch by saying, and they're actually kind of they're placating you, like, oh, you poor thing, you don't realize that this is just, it's all in your mind. That's what they're really saying. It's all in your mind. Well, science says that if you give a person that sugar pills and they think it's medicine and they receive the results, then it's the result that matters in the first place. And since the result is it was placebo, but it's the result that matters. They still receive some kind of effect that caused them to feel better, think better, function better, their life improved. So if it is a placebo, it's still doing good and it's still helping, even if it's not real as what they're really saying. But once again, the United States the United States government has on their National Institutes of Health website, Reiki works better than placebo. You can Google that one. Reiki works better than placebo, which means a placebo only can do this much. Reiki does this, which means it's there has to be they cannot explain the effect of Reiki by just saying, oh, it's just placebo. No, placebo only works up to here. Reiki's doing this. So what's the explanation of this? That can't that it can't be placebo because that would only Reiki would only generate this amount. But it's doing this. So what's the explanation? There's never an explanation of that gap because the only explanation has to be something is taking place that is allowing greater results, greater effect that placebo or just sham fakery or just belief does not offer. Simply believing I'm going to be better does not produce the effects that Reiki does. Therefore, the only by Occam's razor, the logic is there is something taking place that is producing the positive results. And that's the part that, some people, they're uncomfortable with the idea that something is happening that is producing these results, and it's not just his or her personal belief. There's something real taking place here, but it's outside of this individual's personal worldview, and they feel uncomfortable, so they rather just say it's just placebo. That's what's happening. They're uncomfortable with a reality that they cannot accept. We cannot force anything on anyone, but that individual is going to have to come to terms with a reality that they're having difficulty accepting.
All right. Well, thanks again for bringing in some more research, Munikai. Okay. Well, we just have a few minutes left, but let's combine two into one. And that is Reiki practitioners use their own energy and it drains their energy. What do you have to say about that?
There's a lot of energy healers out there. Energy healing is like using a mobile power bank. If I plug this into my cell phone, the energy that is in here is going to drain down from here, but it's going to go into my cell phone. On the other hand, a cell phone charger that plugs into electricity in the wall is going to allow for infinite electrical energy to flow into my cell phone. A Reiki practitioner is a human being who, by virtue of the attunement or placements and ignitions, our energy pathways are now open and strengthened, widened. Think of it like you had a 2-lane street. Now you have, say, a 8-lane highway. And masterclass, you got a 16. You got the Autobahn. You got an 18-lane highway. Masterclass. Your energetic pathways go from 2 lanes, level 1, level 2, level 3. Now you got this big super energetic highway that's allowing all this positive energy to flow through you, not from you. As long as we are using Reiki energy, we can do as many sessions. Only limitation is, as Karen, you said, your physical body, you're tired and everything. But since it's flowing through us and not from us, you don't get tired and drained using Reiki. You do get tired and drained if you are using your own life force energy to do work, which is like taking a power bank and making the sacrifice, and it's getting lower, lower, and lower. Soon this is going to need recharging. A cell phone charger doesn't need recharging because the energy is flowing through it, not from it. This is what a Reiki practitioner is.
Well, that's brilliant, Munikai. Love that. Stars for Munikai today. All right. Well said. I love the visuals. I love the analogy. And yes, if you as a Reiki practitioner, if you really, really want to achieve a certain outcome and you try too hard, guess what? You're using your own energy somewhat. And that's not good. It's not going to feel as good. It's going to feel like you're pushing the energy on the person, and it will make you more tired. Instead, you intend to put your ego and personality aside, put aside your attachment to the outcome, allow the energy to flow through you, and allow the energy to do what it's going to do. Then at the end of the session, you just hand the person off to your higher power. And, that's whatever outcome is what is meant to be. You've done your best. There's none of this. Oh, they're healed. I'm such an amazing practitioner. Oh, they died from cancer. Oh, I'm a horrible practitioner. No, none of that. That is not good, not healthy. Believe me, I've been down that road. I've practiced long enough that I've been there. and that's not good. We can't take credit or the blame for an outcome. You know, it is what it is. And we just trust Reiki to do what is for the highest good of the person and the situation or the animal if we're giving Reiki to an animal.
Karen, I just want to just say, like I say, another way I say it is like this. We Reiki practitioners, we are the envelope that the message is in the envelope is the Reiki energy. The envelope carries the letter, but you know when it gets there, they open the envelope and take the letter out. It's what's the letter. The envelope is just what's allowing it to travel through. It's the letter where the message is, and that's the Reiki energy.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love all your analogies. Well, I didn't know you were so brilliant, Munikai.
Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude.
All right. Well, let's just move into some wrap up for this. So I just am so grateful to Munikai for joining me here tonight. And I'm grateful for each one of you and the questions that you brought, your presence, your love, your Reiki energy. I hope that this helps you, you know, when you encounter people who are doubting and wondering. And I am going to load up this whole Reiki myth thing with the Reiki myth and then the information about it onto my website under KarenHarrison.net, then Reiki articles. So, you know, just give me a couple of days. I'm trying to get it formatted so that it looks in its prettiest possible way. Anyway, that can be a good resource for you all. And yes, Reiki practitioners are a vessel or a conduit, Candace. That's well said. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. And Reiki Call is the third Monday of the month. I've just secured next month's Reiki Call, which will be Reiki and Inner Child Healing with another colleague of mine, Giselle Ravello from New York City. She's another licensed teacher, so that will be really good. And you can also join us on the second Monday of the month online for Reiki Circle, where you can receive healing energy, or the fourth Monday of the month at my office in Kansas City for an in-person Reiki Circle. Okay, I look forward to seeing you all at one of my classes. I have classes all the time, KarenHarrison.net. You can find them there. And love and hugs to you all.
Thank you, Karen, for having me, and I enjoyed this so much.
Okay, thank you. And Munikai, hold on after everybody leaves, and we'll just have a quick call. And thank you all. Good night.
Both.